Alright, welcome back guys. Welcome back to the channel. Today we'll be starting off with a Dragon Ball. It's pretty easy. You don't need to reinvent the wheel, or in this case reinvent the sphere to do a Dragon Ball. So more or less, we want it to fit the size of the palm. So I'm going to grab my caliper here. Just measure the size of my palm, more or less. Want to grab it nice and fit in my palm. So what we'll be doing today is I'll be guiding you through some steps you can incorporate in making these shapes or making these features. So what I did right now, I created a sphere. And Autodesk Fusion 360 already has a sphere feature incorporated, so you don't need to sketch a profile and then revolve it. Although that could be another way. But like I said, you don't need to reinvent the sphere. So there it is. It's a 70mm ball and an overview of the different layouts. So over here on your left, you notice that once I created this body for the ball, it showed up here under bodies. For origin, there's a tab as well. If I want to, let's say, hide it, I can hide the body and it's gone. If I want to hide any certain element within this plane, I can click on this eye looking icon and it's gone as well. Down here you'll notice every time you add a feature, it shows up on your family tree. So right now we just added a ball. If you want to delete it, you can go ahead and it disappears by dragging this cursor down below. So we have our ball, and now we want to create the stars. So in this case, we'll be creating a 4-star Dragon Ball. In this case, what you want to do is, since you have the origin planes, but you don't have any other plane by which to draw it. So what you could do, there's two different approaches to this. You can either draw in the middle, on the mid plane, or if you want to 3D print this, you might want to consider drawing outside, since you can't 3D print something inside, in the middle of a solid body. So we'll be doing an offset plane. We'll be offsetting it, and you can see on the side our new plane created. And there it is. There's our new plane. We'll be sketching on that plane now. So create sketch. It's going to ask you which plane you want to sketch it on. Well, you can click on that sketch. On that plane, sketch it. So now you can see to our left, we have a new tab called constructions. Construction is basically any planes that you make, any lines that you make, or any points or vertices you make. And same deal, if you want to, you can go ahead and view it. Click it again to unview it. It sometimes helps to view it. That's just your preference. We'll click line. And one feature about Fusion 360 is that it has a grid that it overlays over the object. And this is helpful because you can have increments or incremental intervals by which you can snap your drawings to. And the reason it snaps is because there's this feature down here called snap to grid. If you want to take that off, you can take away snap to grid. And what that do, it'll make it, you can draw anything and it won't snap to the nearest block on this grid. So for example, I'm just drawing something, it's not snapping to anything. Whereas if I enable snap to grid, every time you draw something, it'll snap to the nearest object. See how it's snapping to the grid? So those are some useful features to incorporate when you're doing sketches. So since we're doing a 4-star ball, I'll be starting over here. I start over here and draw a triangle. And you might be wondering, well, that's not a complete star. And that's okay. Let me show you some other features you can use to be able to make this into a complete star. So right now I'm doing mirror. I'm going to mirror one side of the triangle to the other side. It requires an object to mirror and the mirror line, and we have both. So we click OK. And now create a reflection of this object. Next thing we want to do is a circular pattern of these two objects, along which center point? This center point. And it's going to create the star we wanted. In this case, it's a 5-star, 5-point star. And that's it. Easy as that. We're done. All that's left to do now is edit these features. We can fillet it or trim it. And trimming what's going to do is going to take away the lines and delete them. So a nice way to polish your sketches if you have excess parts. One more thing we'll be incorporating a point here. Guess we can't. So we'll be incorporating 2 lines here. one line here, and then click escape, and another line here, and click escape. It doesn't matter the size of these lines, since what we'll be doing is mirroring these objects over these lines. And then repeat the same mirror to the other side. And that will give us the 4-star ball we're looking for. Looking pretty good. So, now I finalize our sketch. And what is the tangible output is a sketch plane with 4 sketch profiles in the form of that lattice. So we can extrude now. We click E on our keyboard for extrude, and we click our profile sketches. We want to extrude. In this case, we want to cut into the sphere. So we'll be dragging this cursor backwards into the ball, and it increments every 5 millimeters. If you want to disable increment, you can go here to incremental move and disable that. And all that does is basically, every time you click and drag something, it doesn't move by increments, it moves by however much you drag it. So it's not discretized. So we're going to go back and enable increments. And see now it's moving by every 1 millimeter versus the intervals you set it to. It doesn't matter on which one you choose. Sometimes it comes down to preference, other times, depending on what you model, it makes sense to have by increments. For example, if you're doing prototyping or if you have no idea how the concept is first made, so first designs usually, it's better to have those features. And it could be as easy as this. This could be your Dragon Ball. So if you want to, you could stop there. Oh, why stop there? Let's make this actually look good. Well, what we're incorporating now is some tips you can use to make your object look more professional. And that goes in with appearance. So we're going to go to appearance and we're going to make this object glass. And for the sides that are actually stars, we'll be incorporating different materials to those properties. Let's go to glass here. And this is a library of different materials and properties that you can use to add to your object. That will make your object look professionally presentable. Click and drag it, and if it's not the color you prefer, that's fine. Try it again, remove it. Let's say none of these colors work. There's a way for you to make it custom colored, and that's by just going up here to library, clicking twice on the color or the material, and setting the custom color you prefer. Let's go ahead and make this orange. Once you're satisfied, you can click done. If you want to, you can go ahead and click another color, glass. Just play with the features, and at this point comes down to your preference, how it looks more aesthetically pleasing to you. Let's say that's a good one. So let's say you're satisfied with this color, and all you need to do is add material properties and colors to the surfaces. So there's 2 different components you can apply colors or material properties to. There's the bodies and components, and there's the faces. So what you just saw right now, I applied a color and a material property to the body. So this entire body, which is one body, it now has glass. If we want to specify a particular face, however, we need to indicate it. So in this case, I want to draw these stars, make them a different color, and I want to paint them over. So I go to paint, I'm going to choose my different paints. Let's say yellow. And I indicate it, and now it's yellow. Even though it's on the same body, it's a different color. So I'm going to go ahead and repeat this for all of my different sides that I want to draw. And if you're by any chance intimidated by Fusion 360, don't be. I think overall it's easier to manage than SolidWorks. The layout is much more presentable, easier to understand and navigate. The shortcuts are easy to learn, which one thing I found personally appealing. Saves you so much time. But the good thing is to just get started. Get started today. Start modeling. Nothing beats practice on your own. How about that? So if you want to, you could leave it there. But let's say you want to change this color from glass to a different material. Let's go ahead and do that. And now let's make it more professional. Let's change the different colors we incorporated in this design so it can be as close as possible to the Dragonball. How about that? So if you want to 3D print this, you can go ahead and just 3D print this. It will 3D print nicely. One other thing you could do to consider is when you inspect it, you take a cross section of it. So it asks you, okay, what face you want to take a cross section of? And you can do a cross section of a plane. So you click and drag your cross section, and it will basically cut your shape in half. This will help you, for example, you want to prevent extra supports from 3D printing. You just 3D print two halves together and you put it into one. So that could help if you want to save up on supports. If you want to, you'll notice here every time you construct a section analysis, you have this analysis tab now. So just like origins, you can click and hide it. What's left? Well, now you know how to make one Dragonball. You can make the rest. But what I want to show you now is how to make this professionally presentable as a render. So right now we have a render studio. And what that rendering studio basically allows us to do is make these objects more realistic. In a virtual studio, you can design to different settings, different exposure to light, etc. So you just go to setup and you go to environment library. You can play with some features there as to how the lighting and the angle will reflect off the object. Usually I choose sharp highlights, but that depends on the object. This one looks good. And the different material properties you choose. Sometimes the light reflects better off metals, or depending on the object and material you select. So let's find an angle for this. That was like a nice angle. So once you're satisfied, you click render. So you need to save before you render. And you'll notice right now the title, it says untitled. When you save it, it goes from untitled to the version you save it as. But in this case, every time you save it, there will be a prefix or a subscript that follows it. So right now it says public 4-star Dragonball version 0. That's because it's the first time you save it as this file. And the good thing about it is that it goes from version 0 to version 1. So after you save it for the first time, it becomes a new version. And if you want to go back to an old version, you can down here. You go to your different designs and you see the different updates for your version if it's more than one. And you can see that design history, which is great to have. So now you save it, you can render it. Let's render that. And the difference between final and standard is up to you. I don't think it's too much of a difference. That's why we're sticking with the 0 credits. But if you want to make it really presentable, then go ahead and just click the finalize render. And what that would do is basically create a cube. So right now, Fusion 360 is taking these different inputs in terms of lighting, reflectance, absorbance for the material you chose and the property you chose. And it's making within the studio a virtual interpretation of how the image will look if you put it that way, from that different angle, different lighting. What you could do in the meantime, if you want to, you could capture this image. And this image would basically capture the workspace. Save it. And that you could save this image, as a memento or as a reference for future objects. So yeah, with those knowledge tips in mind, you can apply these different concepts to whatever model you're building. So if it includes a sphere, you know how to do it, as well as circular patterns and sketching and mirroring. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Stay safe, guys.